Happy Juneteenth, fellow Texans. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, Juneteenth, a Texas holiday. We, for the locals here, like me, we grew up learning about it in school, and all the transplants just figured out that this thing existed about 5 years ago, and now the rest of the country wants to get in on it. I guess that's okay, but this is a Texas-specific holiday. Stick around. I'll do my Juneteenth, my annual Juneteenth spectacular in a couple hours. But today's top story is the Iran-Israel situation. We have some information that was given to us about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Carolyn Levitt, Trump's spokesperson, came out, did a 28-minute press conference, took a bunch of questions, and there's two parts of it that you're going to be hearing about from all the other news sources today. So let me just get this out of the way, and we can chat about this to start off the show. Number one, we have a timetable on whether or not the United States is going to escalate this and actively participate in the war against Iran or not.
Told you from the president directly, he will make a decision within 2 weeks.
Okay, so 2 weeks. What does that mean? I'm just letting you think about it. Because what are you comfortable with? What does it mean to go to war against Iran? Does it mean in 2 weeks he's going to submit a declaration of war to Congress, and then they're going to pass it, and then we will officially be at war, and then we'll pull out all the stops, and we'll do everything we can to bring Iran to the diplomatic table? Does it mean we're going to actively bomb them with American bombs from American planes flown by American pilots, or drones controlled by American joysticks, or however they do it? What does that mean? Now, I'm asking this as somewhat of a rhetorical question because I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. Trump might know, but we didn't find out from this press conference. Here's what we know. The demands. What will it take to end this? This is the other super important quote from today's press conference from about an hour and 10 minutes ago.
What exactly would a deal with Iran need to entail?
No enrichment of a uranium, and it would absolutely not. Iran is not absolutely not able to achieve a nuclear weapon.
Okay. So what? We're going to just bomb all of their nuclear facilities, period, point blank, end of story? Even the stuff that they claim they're spinning for non-weapons grade uranium? And when they talk about the centrifuges, you know what a centrifuge is? It spins stuff around, so then the heavier isotopes go to the outside, lighter isotopes stay on the inside, and they can scrape that off and keep repeating the process to sort of refine it. That's what they're talking about with the centrifuge. Same thing they do with like dialysis. You ever seen your little dialysis machine spin? So what, are we just not going to let them have centrifuges anymore? You can't take uranium isotopes and spin them? I like the idea of preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. I'm not sure I like the depth that some people would be willing to go to make that a reality. For one thing, I am shocked that they haven't figured out how to make a nuclear weapon so far. If India can figure it out and Pakistan can figure it out, and Pakistan and Iran touch, why can't Iran figure it out? I mean, when you look through the annals of history, they have far better scientific prowess and accomplishments than some of these other nations that have already figured out a nuclear weapon. We figured it out in the 40s before we even had a TI-85 graphing calculator. Shout out to my other math nerds out there. Is that what you had? Or did you have the TI-81? Are you my age? Because that's what old. You got gray hair, don't you? But I can't imagine that this timetable is going to be something that's enforceable forever. So what are we supposed to do, James? Just let everyone get the nuclear weapon? No, I think we need to start like getting ready in our heads that probably in about 10, maybe 50 years, everyone will have access to a nuclear weapon. This is a technology that you can't stop. You can't stop ideas. You can't bury ideas. You can't kill an idea. You can't kill a technology or a knowledge. You may be able to slow its spread. You may be able to incentivize countries from not embracing its spread. But information has been so democratized through the internet and through all these other means of information technology that, yeah, I imagine at some point before we pass away, Iran will have the bomb. So I think the smart move here is Iran having the bomb isn't a problem if the Ayatollahs aren't in charge, if they have a better system of governance. And so now I'm kind of worried about that because what does it take to topple a country and replace a terrible dictatorial terrorist butthead with something that's more reasonable? And they don't have to be like a full-blown Western civilization, full complement of human rights, liberal democracy. I think the example on the plus side would be Iraq. On the negative side, it could be Afghanistan. Because we did those almost at the same time. Granted, it was a year and a half apart. But we went into Afghanistan in October, November of 2001. November, I guess, officially. And then we went into Iraq in March of 2003, if I remember correctly. Now, Iraq was a basket case for a long time, had an insurgency, had instability, economic basket case, civil unrest. But eventually they had some elections, and then it didn't work out, and we did elections again. And while things aren't perfect, they're definitely better than they were under Saddam Hussein. And we don't have someone that is cutting checks to suicide bombers or funding terrorism that's running the country of Iraq anymore, to having access to those petrodollars and using them to be a thorn in our side. But it took a lot of effort. It took boots on the ground. And it took boots on the ground for what, 10, 15 years before we kind of slid out from Iraq the first time. Now, Afghanistan, we stayed there. And it never got better. And the second we pulled out, it reverted right back to where it was. So that's kind of the concern. If you can guarantee me we're going to do another Iraq and we're going to go into Iran and we're going to talk to the leadership, we're going to leave it with a somewhat liberal democracy. And I'm saying liberal democracy with a lowercase L, like the international use of the word in statecraft, not our politicized version of the word liberal. But I don't even know if in fact, I know. I'm not okay with that. I don't want to do another invasion. I don't want to have another amphibious assault. I don't want my cousin to be running out of the back of a Bradley in some terrible town that's shooting at him from all directions, and he's got to come home with PTSD. So, James, are you saying it's okay for Iran to have the bomb? And look, that may be out of our jurisdiction. I don't think on a long enough time scale we can use as much resources and power and blood and treasure as it costs to make sure no bad actor gets the nuclear weapon. Maybe if we had a balanced budget over here, we could talk about that. But I don't think we're even close. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Feel free to jump in on this. I think you might like my next guest. He's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. That's right, the town of Shiloh in Israel. And you'll get to hear his take on the Israel-Iran war coming up next. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. Happy Juneteenth. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest might have an interesting take on the latest with Israel versus Iran and whether or not we're going to get into the shallow end of this pool. His name's David Rubin, not that Dave Rubin, a different one. This one is the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, now works with the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. Welcome to the James Show, Mr. Rubin. Okay, so tell me about your experience over there. When were you the mayor of Shiloh, Israel? How long did you live there, and where are you at now? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a Texan, so we have like Shiloh Road Baptist Church in my hometown, and that's what I was basing it off of. There is, yeah, okay. Well, give me an idea. I am not a well-traveled man, David Rubin. I have never been in a missile attack or even in a threatening situation. What's different about living over there versus here? You've done both. What do we not know about the situation you're in? You, of course, being the little Satan over here. We're the big Satan. Hey, we're the big Satan. That's pretty cool. The biggest terrorists on the planet, they don't like us. That's probably a good sign. All right, we're talking with David Rubin. He is now with the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. How would you rate the job America has been doing? Or I really just should say Trump has been doing and pushing back since he's been in office. Would you like to see more? Is it about right? Should we back off and do less? What do you think, David? All right, David Rubin. I'm running out of time here. We got less than a minute. What do you think the timetable is on this? Is this something you think is going to be mopped up in a couple of weeks, or is this something that's going to drag out for years? That's what I'm hoping for too. David Rubin, IsraelChildren.org is his website. Thank you very much for joining us from Israel. Well, that's cool to hear from someone who's actually in the war zone from the other side of the planet live on the James Show. Your thoughts? 800 288 9227. 800 288 9227. Yeah, and that's what I think. I think this will be wrapped up in a matter of weeks, not even months, weeks. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. You're listening to News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. To get you all caught up, if you're just tuning in, we got a new timetable here. Trump's spokesman had a press conference right before the James Show started and said he's going to be making a decision on whether or not we escalate our involvement in the Israel-Iran war in just 2 weeks.
Told you from the president directly, he will make a decision within 2 weeks.
Okay, now what has to happen in order for this to not escalate? Just one thing. No nuclear weapons. That's it.
What exactly would a deal with Iran need to entail?
No enrichment of uranium, and it wowould absolutely not. Iran is not absolutely not able to achieve a nuclear weapon.
All right, your thoughts. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I really think that we could bomb these dudes into submission. I really think that this is going to last weeks, not years, maybe not even months. And I really think, this is my third little bullet point on the situation as it stands right now. Generally speaking, I know there's some detractors out there, but nobody wants American boots on the ground. 800-288-9227. This is Troy in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP.
Hello, James. Glad to talk to you. This is my first time calling into your show. I listen all day.
Oh, welcome.
All the time. You took all the wind out of everything because you went in total agreement. I believe it's going to take, I thought it would take a couple of months, because the first Iraq war took 7 months, and that's because we first bombarded the heck out of Iraq. So with Iran, once we do bomb them into submission or fire our cannons from our battleships out there in the ocean or the rail guns that they carry and take out every target we want to strategically with minimal damage to casualties, unless they use them as human shields like they tend to do. We get them to the table and we let them have nuclear power plants, but they have to buy their enriched uranium from one of our trusted allies. And when they deplete that and get it to the point to where they can turn it into a nuke or a plutonium bomb, they have to return the same weight that they were sold. So when a rod runs out, we actually replace it for them. Boom, boom, boom. And they can run all the nuclear power plants they want to. No weapons. Everybody's happy.
So what? We just have to be their babysitter from now until forever? The real problem isn't Iran getting a nuclear weapon. The real problem is Iran getting a nuclear weapon while these jerk theocrat ayatollahs are in charge. If they had decent leadership, if they had something that was semi-friendly to the Western world, we wouldn't care if they got a nuke or not. Pakistan's just the best example ever. They're an even more religiously fundamental country. They harbored bin Laden. They've got the worst terrorists in the world that come out of Pakistan, but their governance is somewhat open to the West and not as hardline as Iran's. They've had a nuke for years now, no negative consequences of it. So I think what we really need to be focused on isn't so much keeping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon forever now and for the end of time, but seeing what we can do to make sure Iran gets a better system of governance before they inevitably get a nuclear weapon.
Thank you for finishing my argument.
Man, we're just on the same page. That's great. Thank you, Troy.
And tell Miss Parker I said, hey.
Hey, Miss Parker. That's fine.
Hi, Miss Parker.
Thanks, James.
I think she's listening right now, so she heard that from you, Troy. Good stuff. All right.
Okay.
By the way, just want to throw it out there. Miss Parker looks good today. And she was just like, she was taking the kids out swimming when I was going to work. I was like, am I going to have to call in sick? Am I going to skip a James show? We've got a redhead in a bikini over here. This changes everything. Michael in Weatherford, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hey, bud, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute.
Good.
And I already heard what you said, and I'm not going to tell you I will tell you I agree. But who are we? And I know it goes much deeper than talking on the radio and what we see on the news, to tell somebody, another country, what to do and how to do it when we don't even have support of Germany, Canada, France. Well, we know about France, but
Well, we don't need that. We
Here
don't
we
need their
are.
support. Listen, the only reason in my libertarian sensibilities, I don't like telling anybody what to do. The only reason I like us putting a thumb on Iran is because those jerks chant death to America, and not like some radicals that within their population, but their leadership and these ayatollahs that run around in these big dumb robes, like they're dressed like Emperor Palpatine, like it's still the Old Testament over there. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, no, well, let me tell you what I understand. My nephew retired from the Army, lieutenant colonel, just a year or two ago, and he's been all over the world. He ended up in Virginia when he retired. But I asked him, I said, man, we can take out these guys. Why don't we go in and take them out? Blah blah. Well, they have, and he said the bad thing is you take out the head of a certain group. There's 30 or more zealots behind them that you don't know which way they're going to jump. We knew so-and-so was going to jump this way, the head of the whole deal. But he said the zealots are going to be 30, 40, 100 of them to replace them doing these unsolicited acts of terrorism that
Right.
have no MO.
Well, and right. So, in the two worldly examples that we have in just this century, Iraq seemed to work out, but Afghanistan, how many times have we killed the leader of the Taliban? Like 28? We've run through like a whole deck of cards of these dudes.
They breed like rats, but the thing is like Vietnam. I was there in 2013, and there after Hanoi, they're still rebuilding. We went in there, carpet bombed them, and they're still rebuilding. And they're hardcore communists. I mean, the DMZ is real. You can't see it, but the South and the North are two different animals. South Saigon's just like Vegas. I mean, it's thriving and going. The North, Hanoi, there's everywhere you could see the remnants of what happened. And like I said, they're still rebuilding. But the key is they don't hate Americans. I mean, I went there and they fed me, rode me around. That government's a different deal. They didn't trust me worth a damn.
Right.
So, but the thing is, either we go in and you look at Japan, Hiroshima. We went in there and did what we had to do. We have not had a lick of problems from them since.
No, in fact, Japanese have been some of our best friends since. All right, good call again. There's Michael in Weatherford. You want to be next? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Your thoughts on the deadline and getting even more involved in Iran. And then after we wrap this up, the next story that's going to be coming on the James Show is there's a strong case for Trump derangement syndrome being recognized as an official mental illness, and I'm so on board for this. So keep it right here. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand that me and Joe Exotic are pretty much best friends now. I mean, he was on my show for a whole segment, and we've been tweeting back and forth for, I don't know, a week or so now. Now, people are asking me if the interview I did with him earlier this week, is that AI? Because I took the chunk of the video and I put it up, and it's just me. No, that is not AI. We actually had Joe Exotic on if you want to check it out. It's on, what'd you say? Yeah. No, it's on the WBAP Facebook page and Twitter page and all that social media stuff. If you want to go see it, go check it out. But it's not AI. It's real. Is that so hard to believe? He's in prison or medical unit. He said in Fort Worth, so I think he listens to the show. Yeah, we're pretty much best friends. But top story, we're continuing with Iran, Israel. There's a 2-week deadline that Trump has said, just giving him 2 weeks to make a decision. This is a deadline type guy. And you know where that comes from? The business world. I don't hear anybody out there that wants boots on the ground for America, so I don't think this could escalate into sort of the worst case scenario. You know, like libertarians just hate boots on the ground in foreign countries. But just bombing the snot out of people chanting death to America, and it's not our planes that are doing it. It's not our bombs that are doing it. Pfft. Yeah, that's fine by me. What do you think? Steve and Weatherford, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hey, sir. I think what we're going to see is the U.S. military is going to put up a significant military umbrella of capability, allowing the IDF to go into Fort Al, go inside, get all the goodies out of it, take them back to Israel, and then they'll implode that facility. And Khomeini has probably got less than 2 weeks left on this earth. But the world's at an inflection point now where we can either knock the crazies out of business or appease them like Chamberlain did, and we will march toward a real World War III. The way we get out of World War III is we have an Iranian revolution where the people adopt a Western-style democracy and go free, don't live under a warlord or a Khomeini, and even that needs to happen in Russia and even in China with Tiananmen Square 2.0. Once these people get out from underneath these dictator warlord types and they start adopting Western-style economies and ways of living, chasing girls, nice cars, good restaurants, then we can all back away from nuking each other.
Well, that's a good reason why me and many other people across the planet are actually really optimistic about the situation, because they don't have to adopt a Western civilizations type lifestyle where you walk around in business suits and ties and women don't have to have headscarves on and they can even wear a bikini at the beach or whatever. They have to return to that. They've already had that. They already had that, and it worked and it looked good. And it wasn't until the Iranian Revolution in 1979 that was taken away from them. So I think Iran could just snap back almost immediately to a more sensible, Western, favorable, liberal democracy. Again, lowercase L, people. I'm using the statecraft version of the word, not the American political version of the word. But Steve, what you said at the beginning there probably is best case scenario, but it's going to require someone's boots on the ground. If you're going to go take everything that's out of that facility and then implode it, there's going to be human beings wearing boots that are doing it. And is that the job of the Israelis? Who's doing that?
Raid on Entebbe worked pretty good, didn't it?
Okay,
Never underestimate the Israelis and their military prowessness. They'll go in there and clean the place out, take all the goodies, and they'll crater it on the way out, and it'll never, ever be used again. But if you just hit it with some bunker busters and entomb it, then it can be dug back out. We don't know what they were doing. I think you go in, clean the place out, and then demo it on the way out.
Okay, but that's Israel's job, not ours.
We'll have some of our players there with the Israelis, but it'll be mostly Israeli boots on the ground going into Fort Al to clean it out, get the goodies, and demo it on the way out. Our guys will be what's called sky cap. If anybody tries to booger with the Israelis while they're in there doing their job, our people will teach them a bad lesson and keep them off the Israelis while they're doing Fort Al.
You sound so confident about this. Do you have a military background of some sort?
23 years.
I could hear it in your voice. Thank you for your service, sir. All right. You know, some people, The View, think that, our whole antipathy toward Iran may be a little misplaced because being in the oppressive theocratic hellhole of Iran is not any different than being black in America. What, James? No, I'm not saying that. You'll hear Whoopi Goldberg and Sonny Hostin from The View say that next, and then I'll blow it completely out of the water. But that'll kind of put a cap on this whole discussion about Israel, Iran. A little bit of context, ladies, please, is coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Happy Juneteenth, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We've been talking about the Iran-Israel situation, and you won't hear it's. Well, I shouldn't test the universe like this. It would be very hard to find a worse take on the U.S., Israel, Iran triangle than what was heard on The View yesterday. There's going to be two main voices here. Whoopi Goldberg, who you will recognize, and then there's Alyssa Farah, who is kind of the conservative on the table, but she's incredibly moderate. She's really just a moderate Democrat. And then you'll hear Sonny Hostin pop up in there, and they're trying to make the case that being black in America is just as bad, is just as oppressive as living under the Ayatollahs in Iran. I'm not making this up. In fact, I have stretched it out from about 15 extra seconds from where most people are starting this soundbite and about 15 extra seconds at the end of it, because the full context is even better.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Iran. Do not, no one at this table should go to Iran.
Let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But yeah, I know that. And we all know that. But every day we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals, and I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not
women,
what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot have property. They cannot leave them.
I'm talking about here.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent.
Good.
But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. Listen, I'm sorry. You know, when you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
Okay, they don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe.
They can't go out of their house. The women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
Let me try something. It's like try to reverse roles with a black person in this country, let's say, because I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just try to understand from their point of view. From that point of view, this country does not do them well. Does not go for them.
I completely acknowledge that.
And we shouldn't compare atrocities.
If you're talking about Iran, of course, is doing worse things. But relatively speaking, it feels bad.
Okay, but I think you know that Iran is significantly worse.
Oh my God, that's all I can take of that. Isn't that just fantastic? Go to Iran. Whoopi has the money. Go to Iran, smart aleck. Go ahead. Do a little, why don't you do a few episodes of The View from over there? Y'all can be on location like you do sometimes. Go to Tehran. Go try and run around without a headscarf on. Try and run around without male relatives in public. Try and vote. Well, they have elections in Iran. No, they don't. I mean, they let you vote. But the Ayatollahs get to pick the candidates. And if they don't like the candidates, they can veto. They can strike any candidate off the ballot. So, no, you don't have open, free, and fair elections. But their worldview is what's being exposed here. Their worldview is that America is not great. And at that time, she's like, I know, this is the greatest country in the world. And when people started clapping, she's like, yeah, it's the greatest country in the world. You just don't want people to clap for it. It's the greatest country in the world, but we oppress blacks just as bad as Iran oppresses their citizens. They're contradicting themselves constantly, over and over and over. But she must not know what she's talking about. And it's so fun to see because her worldview, it doesn't need any level of depth of thought. And it's not even that she really thinks America is better than Iran. She doesn't think Iran's better than America. She's a moral relativist. She thinks it's discriminatory to say one country is better than the other, to say one culture or one way of life or one civilization is better or worse than the other. She's a moral relativist. And the funny part that you probably recognize just by her saying this is hilarious because she as a woman and a woman of color, which is minority status, imagine being a woman and part of a minority group in Iran. Would you be able to speak freely on your TV show? Would you even have a TV show? Would they let you say dissenting views about the Ayatollahs? Would you be able to go on there and like 5 times a week say the Ayatollah is literally Hitler without something terrible happening to you? Oh my God, no. It was recent. The story of Masa Amini was being thrown around social media. I think this just happened like not this year. Wasn't that this year? There was a Kurdish woman in Iran, and she was not wearing a hijab in public. This is an act of protest in Iran. This is an act of bold defiance in Iran, leaving your house with your head uncovered. The morality police snatched her up, beat her. She ended up dying from her wounds. I don't know if they intentionally killed her, but it is a murder. Does that happen in America? Does a legal citizen female, just because she's not wearing a headscarf, get pulled to the side and beat to death and murdered and nothing happens to the cops? She's so far off base. It's almost like she's saying, yeah, I got this cup of water, but it's the driest water you've ever seen. Like, it's not even possible for anybody who knows anything about the situation to think that that's correct. But she had Sonny Hostin backing her up. She had Joy Behar kind of running interference. I don't know if she was necessarily agreeing. Joy Behar, isn't he Jewish? Kind of saying, yeah, you might want to tap the brakes there, but I get your larger point. No, there is no larger point. Iran is far more oppressive to all of their citizens and it compared to Black Americans as it stands right now. The very fact that she can say that on TV is proof that she's not as oppressed here as she would be if she was in Iraq. But here they are. They can't stop taking other people's side first. It's never America first with these people. They'll side with the illegals that are trying to live here illegally and not be deported. They'll side with the Iranians over the Americans. They'll side with the criminals here in America, even in our internecine societal struggles. They'll side with the ones that are more destructive versus productive. Good job, Whoopi Goldberg. Good job showing the world how little you actually know about what goes on outside of your... Dude, and what is she making? Like $5 million a year? Please, somebody come oppress me that hard. My next guest is going to speak with a little more level of depth on the military action that is on the table for Iran. Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku Analytical Devices coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Our top story, Iran, Israel. We got a timeline now that was spelled out. Carolyn Levitt had a press conference right before the James Show started, and it looks like Iran has 2 weeks to acquiesce or Trump's going to make a decision.
Told you from the president directly, he will make a decision within 2 weeks.
My next guest is going to add a little depth to that. Dr. Jeffrey Broder is back on. He does chemical, biological, radiological, neurological nuclear consultant at Rigaku Analytical Devices. Man, you got a heck of a title there, Dr. Jeffrey Broder, but welcome back to the show. All right, so explain to me what Carolyn Levitt means. He has 2 weeks before he makes a decision. A decision on what? All right, can I jump in? All right, Dr. Jeffrey Broder, could Iran block the Straits of Hormuz if they wanted to? Because my feeling, and again, I'm the layman here, is if they tried, we'd probably blast them out of the water and we'd have it open in 24 hours. So, Dr. Jeffrey Broder, if they don't step down and acquiesce and turn over all their nuclear ambitions within the next 2 weeks, or really on any timetable, do we just take out the Ayatollahs? Like, what is our next step after that? What happens after that? Well, in your opinion, this is Dr. Jeffrey Broder from Rigaku. Do you think the nation building worked in Iraq? Okay, fair enough. So, Dr. Jeffrey Broder, what's the likelihood? And again, you've been really good at answering these impossible questions. This is another one. What's the likelihood that the Iranian people will exploit the weak position that the Ayatollahs could be in, and we actually get real regime change? Well, good stuff. Dr. Jeffrey Broder, Rigaku, I appreciate the level of depth you bring to my show. Thank you very much. All right, coming up next, I have some comments on the Iran-Israel thing. Well, more specifically, Whoopi saying Iran is just isn't any worse in their oppression of their citizens than what black people face in America. You'll hear some responses to that coming up next. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. How you doing? Well, we covered Iran, Israel extensively to start off the show. If you're looking for commentary on that and you're just joining us, remember the James Show podcast later on when you're trying to kill time mowing the lawn or in the handicap stall at work or whatever. Just remember you can go check out some of the analysis you missed with the James Show podcast. And still coming up, we're going to cover whether or not Trump derangement syndrome should be considered a legit medical diagnosis, a mental condition, put in the DSM-5 to be specific. But right now we're talking about just on the tail end of the Iran-Israel conversation, the lengths people will go to beclown themselves to run this moral relativism that America isn't so great. You know, a lot of people don't like the slogan, "Make America Great Again," for two reasons. They don't think America ever was great, and they don't think America ever will be great. And if you're a moral relativist, this is so useful if you're of below average intelligence. Do you know what I mean when I say a moral relativist? Does everyone like kind of understand that world? Do you know what I'm talking about? Garrett, are you even paying attention? Do you know what a moral relativist is? Maybe I need to explain it because I'm using Evan Sayet's language. He's a regular guest, and he says it so much better in his book Kindergarten of Eden. But a moral relativist is someone who doesn't want to really think too deeply about things. So when they're asked, they always go for the balance. What country is better? Iran or Iraq? Well, no country's necessarily better than the other. You know, no one has a monopoly on right and wrong and good and bad. And, you know, some countries have their flaws and some other countries have other flaws, and it all kind of evens out in the middle. And it sounds really nice when you're talking about some subjects. Like if you're talking about skin tone, that moral relativism actually works. It's fantastic. Where you say, yeah, there's some good people that are this skin tone, there's some bad people that are that skin tone, and for other skin tones, same. They've got good and bad, and no one really has monopoly on the truth or good or bad or right or wrong. But when it comes to things that actually matter, like culture, like the way you structure your society, your system of governance, well, that absolutely has different results. Capitalism has shown, it's crystal clear throughout the 20th century, that capitalism is a better way to arrange your economics than socialism. Period, point blank, end of story. There is no moral relativism there. And the further you go down the socialism hole, the worse it gets. And so you can say, well, you know, there were, it's unfortunate there were a bunch of communist countries that had famines and breadlines in the middle of the 20th century, and that wasn't a thing in capitalist countries. But, you know, overall, they're about the same. No, they're not. No, they're not. We've also learned, like, on the micro level in society, the moral relativism doesn't work out. Murphy Brown told you, yeah, having a kid out of wedlock, just being a single mom, that's just as good as having a parent. You don't need a man in your life. And now that we've had an entire generation, almost 2 generations of data to look at, we can tell that raising a kid in the household with his biological mother and father, on average, is a superior way. It gets better results than single parenthood. So this is what's behind what this whole thing. Whoopi cannot just admit that America is better than Iran, that American culture and American society is better than Iran. Remember, her worldview is that America is evil. And to be fair, she doesn't think like America's worse than Iran. She just thinks, we're all about the same. Moral relativism. So let's go revisit this clip here from The View, because if you hadn't seen this on your social media already, this is floating.
So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran. Do not anyone at this table to go to Tehran.
Let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But yeah, I know that.
Yeah, don't clap.
And we all know that. But every day we are worried.
All right, so listen, right there when she said America is the greatest country in the world, she said it while rolling her eyes. And when Barack Obama was asked, this is the great example here. Barack Obama was asked that in the presidential election cycle of 2008. Do you think America's the greatest country in the world? And he's like, well, yeah, I think it's the greatest country in the world. Just like people in Germany think Germany is the best country in the world, and people in the UK think UK is the best country in the world. So he doesn't really think it's the best country in the world. He's just like, yeah, I cheer for the team of the jersey I'm wearing, but I don't really think we're better or worse than other countries. That's what's behind that. It's not even necessarily antipathy toward America itself, but when you have the pre-existing worldview that no society or system of governance or culture is better or worse than the other, then how do you explain the severe oppression that the Iranians live under, especially female Iranians, especially female minority Iranians? And does she know? Yes, she knows that she can walk outside without a head covering and be okay. She knows that she can go out in public without male relatives and be okay. She knows that she could run for office. She knows that she can own property and vote. So how does she answer? How does she solve the cognitive dissonance in her head that, well, clearly America allows more freedom and it's not nearly as oppressive as Iran? Well, the race card was her out on this. Yeah, well, we used to hang blacks. Well, we didn't. The Democrat Party and their supporters did. But there was a giant group of American society from the beginning, all the way up through the Civil War and beyond, that fought against this tooth and nail. White people even, that fought against this tooth and nail. They're called Republicans. Oh. So she has, you realize she has to cling on to this, because she would have to admit that her entire worldview is crumbled, and maybe some systems of governance, some societies, some ways of life are better than others. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we have a new Made in America renaissance, but some countries are warning that, trying to push everything to be manufactured here, they can't survive even if they jack up their prices. This is going to cause economic turmoil. How bad? We'll talk about it with my next guest, Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. There's been a big push for Made in America. It's always sounded good, and now that we're in a little bit of tariff turmoil, is that really still a good idea? In fact, what are American companies saying? Let's ask Michelle Schultz, my next guest from Scholl Trade Law, PLLC. Welcome back to the James Show, Michelle. So before we get into any sort of level of detail here, where are we at with the tariffs? Are they still paused? Is there some still on? Is there some super high ones that just aren't getting news anymore? What was the lay of the land look like? Well, I have been disappointed in how hard it is for me myself to define what it means to be made in America, because it sounds easy. Yeah, it has to be assembled here. But I saw the example last year of a TV that was made in America, but all the components were made overseas and they were just assembled at the very final step. They plugged in the sort of motherboard into the actual screen, and then some guy took a little drill and like stuck it in the back, snapped it in the back, and then drilled the cover over, and that was it. So how does that count as made in America? The actual screen itself, the frame, it was all assembled with the base and the packaging and everything else was made overseas, and just one little part with one little motherboard being plugged in and then screwed in the back. I mean, what does it mean to be made in America, Michelle? See, this is what happens. Sorry to interrupt, but this is what happens when I try and figure out what I even think this means is, substantial transformation. Now I got to figure out what that means. All right, we're talking with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. SchultzTradeLaw.com is her website. And I have the same kind of feeling when I think the last list I saw was which cars are most American. And it turns out that 0% of cars are 100% American. So then we just have to do this sliding scale where it's like, well, depending on how you measure it, it could be the Tesla. It could be, I believe, didn't Toyota win out of the conventional cars? I don't even remember the list. But it just seems sort of disappointing that there's no such thing as a 100% American car, but there's really no such thing as a 100% any country car. Well, I think a lot of us have seen the old Milton Friedman bit about the pencil and how, like, even when you take something like a pencil, it's just worth a few cents. It's not anything valuable or complex, but it takes people from all over the world. The rubber comes from Malaysia. The brass was probably mined in like Turkey. The wood comes from the Cascades up in the hinterlands of Washington. The graphite for the lead comes from China or something like that. And, it's all assembled from inputs from all over the world. And we're just talking about a pencil. All right. Well, Michelle Schultz, stick with the James Show because I know we're going to get some more tariff news coming up eventually, and I'd like to have you back on for that. Thanks for your time. All right. That's Michelle Schultz. You can find her website, SchultzTradeLaw.com. Now, I know a lot of you people are going to like this next segment. There's a strong case for Trump derangement syndrome being recognized as an official mental illness, and I'm so on board with this. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. And for my fellow Texans, happy Juneteenth. And I'm specific to fellow Texans because this is a Texan holiday. And while I like people, trying to be like us, and I realize everyone's jealous of how awesome Texas is, it kind of rubs me the wrong way, the way this holiday is being misrepresented. And my next guest wrote a great article. You just put it on X, and it kind of does a better job of spelling out the way I feel. His name is A Muse on Twitter /X, whatever we're calling it these days. And he's kind of a mystery to me. This is a guy I started following because like 20 of my other friends have been retweeting this guy. And so then I started following him. Now I'm a fan. And welcome to the show, A Muse. Are you with me? I don't think he can hear us. He can't hear us. All right. All right, fine. We'll call him on the phone. But the situation around Juneteenth for transplants, and I guess younger people aren't familiar, but look, even out in Bug Tussle, this was something that we learned in our Texas history class. In fact, we learned it in regular history class. It was just part of being a good Texan kid, is we had this special holiday, Juneteenth, and we all thought it was cool because there's a few things that you get to celebrate being from Texas, being a Texan, that you don't get to celebrate if you're from Missouri. They don't have, remember the Alamo in Vermont. They don't have they didn't have a Juneteenth in Kansas. So it was kind of cool in that way. Now there's a little bit of lore and sort of fiction and misinformation surrounding it. But we all kind of agreed the general purpose of Juneteenth, celebrating the end of slavery here in the Lone Star State, is a monument worth recognizing. And it's sort of a lot of people feel, myself included, that it's really the culmination of the promises that were set out in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Because the abolitionists constantly referred to the founding fathers to make their case for abolition, for the abolishment of slavery. And they quoted these guys over and over and over. They quoted the founding fathers. They quoted the Declaration of Independence. And so I feel like when we finally had the Civil War and we finally got past that 13th, 14th Amendment, that is when that promise was actually fulfilled for all Americans. And then we didn't give women the right to vote until 1920? But let's not get too much in the weeds here, because we've also noticed that starting about, 5 years ago, Juneteenth started to be talked about on a national level. And Juneteenth started to be representative of things that just weren't true. And I got to tell you, it really, really rubs me the wrong way about the misinformation around what used to be our personal, specific, adored holiday, Juneteenth, now that it feels like it's being exploited for national purpose. Now, A Muse, let's deal with the two big misconceptions about Juneteenth. You there? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. Hey, it's working. Good job, Garrett, for fixing it. But, okay, so, all right, first misconception is the idea that no one in Texas or the slaves in Texas didn't know about the Emancipation Proclamation, didn't know that slavery had been ended, didn't know they were freed until some guy showed up in Galveston. So that is mistruth number one. Explain that one, A Muse. And you had mentioned in your article that there's even newspapers that had mentioned the end of slavery printed in Houston. So we know the people of Texas knew that slavery had ended before June 19th, 1965. The other big misconception, and the way it's being portrayed on a national level, is they act like, well, for America as a whole, we should all celebrate this because this is the official end of slavery. Also not true. So let's talk about what is with this push to mutate and stretch our holiday into something that's not for national purposes. Really? Okay, now I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, and so this feels like the sort of 1619 project version of what they think a holiday should be. Now, I gotta counter you on something there, A Muse. I'm from Texas. Now I'm from a small town. We always learned about Juneteenth, especially in Texas history class. We did a deep dive on it, but we always were told about it in regular history class, and it was actually a part of our public school curriculum out in the middle of nowhere. I must just be a little bit older than you. Is there like an age gap issue? Because Garrett, my producer, who grew up, aren't you like from the Fort Worth area? So yeah, so maybe is this a big city versus rural school district thing, or is this an age difference? Because he's in his 20s and I'm in my 40s. Okay, that didn't explain it then. Well, that's weird. So how did some people get this? And we heard about it every single year, and there are other Texans who didn't. That changes the story in my mind a little bit. All right, A Muse, conservative commentator. I appreciate you hanging out on the James Show. You need to be a regular and retweet some of my stuff. You got a lot more followers than me. I could use the help. All right, find him on Twitter, X. He's a great follow at A Muse. It's like the word amuse, but it's AMUSE. Fantastic stuff, and he doesn't just retweet and write little 144 character messages. He writes full on articles that are researched in depth and have all kinds of details in them, far beyond what you see in a normal tweet / X or whatever the cool kids are calling it these days. All right, coming up next, you'll hear Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, to make a great case that Trump derangement syndrome is a legit disease. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. All right, focus here. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I know you're going to like this. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, the comic strip about, office and hijinks and politics and awkwardness. He's dying, actually. He has the same cancer Joe Biden has, stage 28 or whatever it is, prostate cancer that has metastasized into his bones. And I mean, literally the same cancer Biden has. And so he knows. He says, I'll probably be checking out sometime this summer. But he has just been laying down some excellent little videos on Twitter /X, whatever we're calling it. And in this one, he's making the case that Trump derangement syndrome deserves to be a real mental disorder. And so what does that mean, a real mental disorder? Well, they want it put in the DSM-5. This is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. This is the mental disorder manual, which kind of makes it official in the world of psychiatry and psychology. So while you and I may just, as laymen, diagnose people with Trump derangement syndrome, this takes it a step further and would make it an official mental disorder. But here he is, Scott Adams, making a case.
I would argue that we should see it as a mental disorder, and that the elderly are just more prone to it, just like Alzheimer's and other stuff. And I saw a post by Meg Brock, who was asking the question on X, when is Trump derangement syndrome going to be officially added to the DSM-5 to make it an official diagnosis? And so I went to Grok to find out, is it already in the literature? And then Grok says it lacks defined symptoms, diagnostic criteria, or empirical evidence required for a legitimate disorder. To which I say, isn't it a lot like addiction? If I said to you, you have a drinking problem, how would you define it as a problem versus a hobby? And the answer is usually if it interferes with your life. So if your drinking has an impact on your life, as in you lose your job, you lose your relationships, you spend all your money, you wake up in a ditch, well, then you've got a drinking problem. If you had 2 drinks on the weekend with your friends and then took a Uber home, we would mostly say you're just somebody who has a hobby and you don't have a problem. But don't you think TDS is exactly like that? If somebody simply prefers a Democrat over Trump, I would say, oh, well, that's just a political preference. But if somebody is crying and shaking and they feel like he's going to become a king and he's going to lock people up in prison camps, isn't that interfering with your actual life and happiness? And wouldn't that be super easy to diagnose if you were a therapist? You could just say, does it affect your life? Do you wake up in the morning shaking and crying? If the answer is yes, then you've got a mental health disorder. I feel like that really needs to be a legitimate mental health disorder. It would help.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because I think he's absolutely right. And there's sort of the layman definition of addiction, or, some sort of issue that you have with chemical substances. Because I have a drink. Sometimes Miss Parker has a drink, but never have we, ran our car into the ditch or hit an Astro van by running a red light on the way home at 2 a.m. The lack of negative consequences kind of lets us know that we don't have a problem. However, continued usage in the face of negative consequences is sort of the everyman's definition of what an addiction is. A disorder is. A mental problem, a mental condition is. And so all you have to do is, okay, you can hate Trump, and that's fine. You're not a mental person. You don't have a disorder. But if you are visited upon with negative consequences in your life, you have to start rethinking that. That's no longer the case that you are just a hobbyist who doesn't like Donald Trump versus your hatred of Donald Trump or your irrational fear of Donald Trump is having a negative impact on your life. Let me give you an example. Just this weekend, we had a No Kings protester. The big No Kings march over the weekend. This is what I'm talking about. This counts in my book as a mental disorder.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything. And I just am so scared and upset. And I don't understand why people voted for this person.
That's a level of paranoia that's not healthy. You're scared to just go outside. You're scared to live in this. You're crying in the middle of the street on a Saturday. You're so scared. Lady, you have a problem. Now, the problem isn't with Trump. It's with this lady and one part, but the other part is the people that are filling her head with all this stuff that activates that sensitivity, that disorder, that paranoia, really. Because if you think like guys are coming after you with guns and so you don't want to leave your house, unless there's actually guys that are coming after you with guns, you're crazy. You're imagining it. And you're disrupting your way of life. You're disrupting your other, you'd probably be a happier person. You wouldn't be crying in the street if not for this belief in something that's not real. If you think there's a unicorn in your front yard, people understand you're crazy because that's not real. And it should be the same way. If you think Trump is literally Hitler, you're certifiably crazy because that is so not real and demonstrably disprovable. Trump derangement syndrome. Is it a real disease? Is it a real disorder? Does it deserve to be in the handbook? Now, I would say yes. However, I'm going to add a tweak to it in the next segment because I don't want this to end with Trump. You've been seeing this your entire life. People talking about Reagan and Bush and everyone else like this. It's not just Trump, but we'll get into this more. I want to hear your thoughts. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, when's the last time you had your roof checked out? For a lot of you, it's never. Well, that's unacceptable. How long's your roof been up there? Unless you just got it recently, your roof is on its way out. You know, roofs have a time limit. And I remember when I was selling my house, one of the first things they were asking, how old's your roof? Because if it's more than 20 years old, you probably need to get it replaced. Oh, really? So they just expect it to run out? Yes. It's like a pair of shoes. It's like brake pads. Your roof is going to run out. And the trick is to catch it as soon as you can to prevent some bigger disaster from happening from a compromised roof. So here's what you do. You call my friends at Blue Ribbon Roofing, James Parker here. I had them come out and inspect my roof, got up there, took a bunch of pictures, took about 40 minutes, maybe an hour tops if you have a bigger house than me. But it didn't cost me anything. And I got to find out that my roof is fine. I had a little board that needs to be replaced in the gables. It's going to cost a few bucks. It's not really that big of a deal, but at least I know. And I have a bunch of pictures and I have a baseline. So if another hailstorm comes through or some big tornado happens or some other storm actually damages the roof, it'll be easy as pie to get the file claimed with the insurance company because we can show, hey, Blue Ribbon Roofing came out to my house in June of 2025. Here's all the pictures. See how it was good then and it's messed up now? Clearly it was this storm. Now give me my money. And if you do need a new roof, they can help you deal with the insurance company because for a lot of people, they do not enjoy that part of the process. They can be kind of a pain, the insurance company, and Blue Ribbon Roofing is just better at dealing with them. So let them do all the heavy lifting in both getting it paid for and getting the roof. And it starts by going to blueribbondfw.com. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am fascinated by this case that Scott Adams made, the creator of Dilbert, making the case that Trump derangement syndrome needs to be in the DSM-5. It needs to be classified as a legit mental disorder. Do you agree? 800-288-9227. Now, I gave you an example of some lady who was crying. I'm just scared. This was the No Kings. I didn't go like cherry pick this. You can find this pretty much any weekend at any protest. There's a few of these.
I'm just so scared.
So what is she scared of exactly? She's 74. What does she think's going to happen? Is she an illegal immigrant that's about to get deported? I doubt it. So she didn't go get this fear on her own. This fear was put in her head probably by the mediums. I know you're supposed to say media for plural mediums, but I'm going to say mediums. From the mediums that she has chosen, who have fed her a steady diet of scaremongering, hyperbolic, Trump is literally Hitler narrative for 10 years now. We've been having these people just fed just the scariest, worst things. They want to oppress minorities. He wants to oppress all immigrants. He hates all immigrants. He wants to erase black people. And it's like, James, you don't have to be in hyperbole as well. You turn into just as bad as them when you exaggerate the things they say. No, I'm not exaggerating. Hey, look, this is the Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, saying we want to eliminate black people. Really? Is this what we want to do?
They wanted to create division, but we're not going to allow that to happen in the city of Chicago. Much like we fought for civil rights 60 years ago, we're going to continue to make sure that whether you are black, brown, Asian, white, young, old, working people deserve to be prioritized. And this misnomer that there's division, and consternation within communities solely based on this issue is just wrong. He's working to eliminate black history. He is trying to eliminate black existence from this country. Jesus. But he's also attacking the LGBT.
Right, we can just cut it off right there. He's working to eliminate black existence from this country. You can say these hyperbolic things, and I know that you're lying when you say them, but the reason you say it is because it works, because people like the I'm scared lady will believe you and will act accordingly. And you have a whole bunch of people there who are willing to overlook all kinds of just crazy atrocities that the government is doing as long as they are anti-Donald Trump, as long as they are fighting literally Hitler. You had 70-something million people go out and vote for a guy who has mashed potatoes for brains 6 months ago because they were so scared of literally Hitler. And they've exploited these people who are just weak-minded. The Jedi mind trick, these are not the droids you're looking for. And he's like, these are not the droids we're looking for. Move along. Move it along. These are the weak-minded people that they watch MSNBC and they go, oh, he wants to eliminate black people, black existence. Well, I'm not in favor of that. I'm not a racist, evil, literally Hitler. This is scary stuff. But it's taken just 10 years of just a constant drumbeat. Now, you probably know this if you're my age or older, but younger people, you don't understand how bad the media talked about Ronald Reagan in real time. Now, I don't know about before that. I don't know if they were running around saying Nixon's literally Hitler, but I do remember firsthand how Reagan was literally Hitler. Reagan was the worst thing in the world. Look, I can do the Bill Hicks Reagan rant. So here's my caveat. I think Trump derangement syndrome does need to be in the books as a legit mental condition. It's a disorder for sure. But I don't think it's limited to Trump. I think this is the danger in calling it Trump derangement syndrome is the fact that when Trump's long gone, the next Republican candidate for president also going to be literally Hitler. The one 4 or 8 years after that also going to be literally Hitler. It never ends. And if you just, for those of you who are younger than me and weren't cognizant or even born yet during the Reagan era, Garrett, listen to this. This was one of the biggest comedians in America at the time, Bill Hicks, a Texan, by the way, going on a rant on Ronald Reagan. And this is how they talk about every Republican president.
Always good guys are murdered. John Lennon murdered. John Kennedy murdered. Why is it good guys are murdered? Mediocre hacks live on forever. Martin Luther King murdered. Gandhi murdered. Jesus murdered. Reagan shot, wounded, cancer 8 times. That still walks. This guy's like Jason at this point, man. I'm back. Wait to see him in a hockey mask. Any speech now. Well, you shot me, I'm back. Cancer on my nose, I'm back. Cancer in my ass, I'm back. My God, what's it gonna take? A syringe of AIDS shot in your eyeball? I'll do it. A Trident missile shot up your fascist, evil, mean-spirited, corporate puppet, devil. Where's the button? Ronald, 6 letters. Wilson, 6 letters. Reagan, 6 letters. Pretty frightening coincidence there, huh?
Yes, he's the Antichrist. Ha ha ha. That's hilarious. However, weak-minded people like, oh, that's so scary. And I don't want to hear this goes both ways arguments. Yes, there are people who got too concerned about Barack Obama and probably let it ruin their mental well-being. But we don't have the same problem going the other way. Show me the mainstream comedian that was making a big case about Obama being literally Hitler, being literally the Antichrist. Can you find one that's as big as Bill Hicks? Can you find every single night talk show, like The Tonight Show, The Late Show, Fallon, Kimmel, Colbert, Tomlinson when she was doing it, that were all just geared up against them? Pat. Hey, Pat and McKinney, you're on WBAP.
Yes, it's a derangement syndrome, and Elon Musk is getting the worst of it. J.D. Vance is getting the worst of it. There's some real nuts that don't understand what's going on in the real world. And on top of that, they listen to the same lamestream news. They wouldn't listen to Fox News or Newsmax to save their life.
Well, I would also like credit on this side of the aisle, Pat from McKinney, because we don't do that. I did not get on. You cannot find. Pardon?
Oh, there was a girl at my window.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
So go through the James Show archives and see if where I called Joe Biden literally Hitler. Go through the James Show archives and see where I called Obama literally Hitler, or literally the Antichrist, or literally the devil, or he wants to erase all white people, or anything. It doesn't go both ways. We don't do the hyperbolic thing. They call us Nazis or racist or sexist or bigots, or we want to control women's bodies. We want to genocide the Palestinians. What's the worst thing we say about them? They're crazy. They're socialist, which is kind of true.
You're right.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad you agree. Anyone else? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Can anyone make the case why Trump derangement syndrome shouldn't be in the DSM-5? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Sorry you didn't hear all the jokes I'm laughing at. I'm just reading some of the messages I was getting over the break here. Let's run through of them because the discussion here, Trump derangement syndrome, is it a real mental illness? Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, has me convinced. I mean, I was already leaning that way here, but a couple of the funnier feedbacks I've gotten. Who wrote this? Robert in Facebook said, I can confirm that as my wife's friend is wanting to move to Canada because her rights are being taken away. She just got her property put up for sale, and when it sells, she's moving to Canada. Well, for one thing, good, get the hell out of here. But this is what I'm talking about. If you believe in a threat that is non-existent, and you are making actions that have negative consequences in the real world, in your real life, that's kind of the definition of a mental disorder. Yeah, she actually has derangement syndrome. No doubt about that. Let's see. This is James, not me, another one, that says, I know too many people who I'd known for years, but for some reason they've gone completely irrational when it comes to anything Trump does. TDS boggles the mind. Now, that's a great sign. Whenever you leave the rationality of the the real world, and you're like, well, we've got to protest against kings. Well, no one's a king. Well, we got to protest against Nazis. Well, no one around you. Half the country isn't Nazis. Well, they're genociding the Palestinians. No, they're not. Well, Hunter's laptop is disinformation. Stop. You're a crazy person. You believe so much stuff that isn't true. Amy writes over here on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it. That lady that's crying at 70 on TV is someone who needs to turn the TV off. This is legacy media's fault. They have people terrified over nothing. TDS is real, and add cognitive dissonance to that. Mind-boggling to me that grown people have zero discernment. Yeah, well, there's some people who just never were taught to be critical thinkers. I guess it comes naturally to others, but they never had a chance to begin with. And legacy media didn't create the crazy people. The crazy people already exist. They're just inserting themselves and exploiting that for political purposes with all this untrue rhetoric. When you wonder why the news lies all the time, constantly about everything Trump or political, because it works on a lot of people. This is James in Arlington on the phone. Hey, James, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hey, James. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the 74-year-old woman. You know, a lot of this, it can't be anything but orchestrated across the country. So I think that there are people that are probably being paid, and those people are thespians, or some of them are actors, and that's what it sounds like this lady was.
Oh, you think she's faking it?
Beyond the pale.
Man, I hope she's faking it, but I really believe that there are a lot of people who are just on the cusp of paranoia like that. And look, paranoia, it's not paranoid if people really are out to get you. But if you're worried about, oh, my rights are being taken away, what? Abortion? That's about it? You don't have to move to Canada for that. And then there was an email I got from Russell, and thank you very much for your call, James in Arlington. Russell wrote in, he said, what about people who are concerned about the Democrats and their policy lies and detrimental effects on our country? Is that going to become a mental disorder as well? Well, if they're believing true things and they're acting on true, real information, then it's not really a disorder. You're just believing the truth. You know, there are some things that you should be worried about. If there's a car coming at you, you should be worried. Think, hey, I may need to get out of the street. But it's not beyond me to admit that there are probably people who were so concerned about Obama that they were scared and they were crying. It's way fewer and far between that we've all noticed, because you never see Team Red getting out there blocking streets or blocking the entrance to DFW Airport or Love Field Airport or hassling the cops. And I mean, that's what made January 6th such an extraordinary event, is that's the closest thing we've ever seen to a right-wing riot. But dumpsters never catch on fire. Teslas didn't catch on fire when Elon was a Democrat. So it can happen, but it's not at the same magnitude or size. It's not as big of a problem as the left-wing Trump derangement syndrome. And it should just be called political derangement syndrome. All right, that's all my time. It's fun. I would like to hear some more of your feedback. James at WBAP.com. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all that fun stuff. And we'll continue this chat tomorrow. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.